right? So that's why we have chosen this particular passage. And as you can see, in 2018 there used to be a title for each passage in VARC. So I'll start with the title, White-Lipped Grove Snails. Okay. So commonly the snails which are found in India are brown-lipped snails, but this is about white-lipped snails. Reading further, grove snails as a whole are distributed all over Europe, but a specific variety of the snail with a distinctive white-lipped shell is found exclusively in Ireland and in Pyrenees mountains that lie on the border between France and Spain. So, these grove snails are usually distributed over यूरोप, बट इनमें एक स्पेसिफिक वैरायटी है which is uh, which has a distinctive white-lipped shell, which is found and these white-lipped shell snails are found exclusively in Ireland and Pyrenees mountain, which is these are the two places where one can find white-lipped white-lipped grove snails. Grove snails as a grove snails as a whole are distributed all over the Europe, but a specific species, which is white-lipped grove snails, are only found in two places, which is one is Ireland and other is Pyrenees mountain, which lies between uh, the border of France and Spain. The researchers sampled a total of 423 snail specimens from 36 sites distributed across Europe, with an emphasis on gathering large number of white-lipped variety. So there was a research which was conducted uh, most probably in Europe, and they collected 423 snail specimens from 36 different locations in Europe. And it was the specific focus was to collect white-lipped variety, right? So among the groove snails, there might be many groove snails, but their focus was to collect white-lipped varieties. Or they might be studying, there might be any particular study that they were conducting. When they sequenced genes from the mitochondrial DNA of each of these snails and used algorithms to analyze the genetic diversity between them, they found that distinct lineage, the snails with the white-lipped shells, was indeed endemic to the very specific and distant places in the question. So this means that gene sequencing was done. So they sequenced genes. So this was some kind of science experiment, and they analyzed the genetic diversity between them, and they found a distinct lineage, as if the snails in Ireland and the snails found in Pyrenees, these are like thousands of kilometers apart, but they are very similar, right? And they are found in only two spaces. When it is saying endemic, so they are found in only two distinct places, and these two distinct places are Pyrenees Mountain and Ireland. These two places they were found. Explaining this is tricky. Previously, some had speculated that the strange distributions of creatures, such as white-lipped grove snails, could be explained by convergent evolution in which two populations evolve the same trait by coincidence, but the underlying genetic similarities between the two groups ruled that out. So this is a claim. Now, uh, the author the author has introduced white-lipped snails initially, right? एक इंट्रोडक्शन दिया है white-lipped snails का, और वो कहाँ पाई जाती है, किन एरियाज में पाई जाती है। वो पाई जाती है आयरलैंड में और पिरेनीज माउंटेन में। फिर एक स्टडी हुआ है एक रिसर्चर के ग्रुप में, जो यूरोप का होगा प्रोबेबली, या हो सकता है कि वो ब्रिटेन का भी हो सकता है ग्रुप। तो उन्होंने एक स्टडी कंडक्ट किया, उसमें 423 स्नेल स्पेसिमेन कलेक्ट किए 36 डिफरेंट साइट से, राइट। और उनका एम्फेसिस था कि ज्यादातर व्हाइट लिप स्नेल को इंक्लूड करें, क्योंकि उनका कुछ स्टडी होगा व्हाइट लिप स्नेल पे। तो उसमें उन्होंने जीन सिक्वेंसिंग किया, जो एक एक्सपेरिमेंट करते हैं ये साइंटिस्ट। तो उसमें पाया गया कि जो ये जो दो प्लेसेस हैं, आयरलैंड और पिरेनीज माउंटेन, ये दो प्लेसेस में जो स्नेल्स है वही उनके उनके जो ट्रेड्स थे वो लगभग लगभग नहीं, टोटली सेम थे। तो इसलिए ये जो स्नेल्स है व्हाइट लिप स्नेल्स, वो केवल उनको ये दो जगह पे मिली है, राइट। तो जैसे एक होता है ना लीनिएज, मतलब एक उनके जो वंशज है आयरलैंड वालों के पिरेनीज में पाए गए, या फिर पिरेनीज से शुरू होके वो आयरलैंड में गए, ऐसा कुछ फर्स्ट वाला पैसेज है, राइट। और फिर सेकंड पैसेज में author is trying to explain why this has probably happened. So they have collected samples from 36 sites, तो 36 डिफरेंट जगह से सैंपल लिया था, बट स्टिल दो ही प्लेसेस है पूरे कॉन्टिनेंट में जहाँ पे ये स्नेल पाई गई। तो ऐसा क्यों हुआ होगा? सो वहीं से ये सेकंड पैराग्राफ स्टार्ट होता है कि एक्सप्लेनिंग दिस इज ट्रिकी, थोड़ा ट्रिकी हो जाएगा एक्सप्लेनेशन करना। प्रीवियसली सम हैड स्पेकुलेटेड, तो एक स्पेकुलेशन किया था किसी ने कि ऐसा हो सकता है, एक अनुमान लगाया, स्ट्रेंज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ क्रिएचर्स such as white-lipped grove snails could be explained for convergent evolution. Now convergent evolution एक concept है evolution का, जिसमें फिर इन्होंने दिया है कि वो convergent evolution क्या है, in which two populations evolve the same trait by coincidence. तो coincidentally दो डिफरेंट जगह पे अगर एक दो डिफरेंट जगह पे अगर एक स्पीसीज का इवोल्यूशन हो रहा है, तो उनमें सेम ट्रेट्स डेवलप हो जाते हैं, एंड इट इज नियरली कोइंसिडेंस। मतलब अ, उसमें कोई स्पेशल उसमें कोई स्पेशल डिफरेंस नहीं होता, लाइक सेम ट्रेट उसमें इवॉल्व हो जाते हैं। तो सेम ट्रेट इवॉल्व सिर्फ कोइंसिडेंस से होते हैं, उसे कन्वर्जेंट इवोल्यूशन। बट फिर ये जो क्लेम है, स्पेकुलेशन है, उसको काट दिया। बट द अंडरलाइंग जेनेटिक सिमिलैरिटीज बिटवीन द टू ग्रुप्स रूल दैट आउट। तो अगर अगर तो कन्वर्जेंट इवोल्यूशन हुआ है, तो दोनों स्पीसीज में कुछ ट्रेड सेम हो सकते हैं, और वो जेनेटिकली सेम नहीं हो सकते। जेनेटिकली सेम तो वही होते हैं जिनका जीन मैच होगा, राइट। जैसे मदर फादर, या फिर जो अ, जो लीनिएज में है। तो इसीलिए इन्होंने क्या पाया कि बट द अंडरलाइंग जेनेटिक सिमिलैरिटीज बिटवीन द टू ग्रुप्स रूल दैट आउट। तो ये दिस स्पेकुलेशन is not true. Alternatively, some scientists had suggested that white-lipped variety had simply spread over the whole continent, then been wiped out when everywhere besides Ireland and Pyrenees too. But the researchers say their sampling and subsequent DNA analysis to eliminate that possibility. तो एक अल्टरनेटिवली से जो बोला है, तो इसमें दो स्पेकुलेशन किया है। पहला स्पेकुलेशन किया है, फिर उसको काट दिया ऑथर ने बट वाले लाइन से। फिर अल्टरनेटिवली से जब आप पढ़ोगे तो इसमें सेकंड कुछ आइडिया रखा है कि एक दिस पर्टिकुलर स्पीसीज वाज प्रेजेंट इन द ऑन द इंटायर कॉन्टिनेंट। जो यूरोप है उसमें हर जगह ये स्पीसीज थी व्हाइट लिप स्नेल की, बट बाकी सब जगह से वो वाइप आउट हो गई। बाकी सब जगह की वो प्रजाति का नाश हो गया, बट सिर्फ वो पिरेनीज और आयरलैंड देश में और पिरेनीज माउंटेन में वो बच गई। लेकिन फिर उस क्लेम को भी काटा है बट से। जैसे टू पे जो सेंटेंस खत्म हो रहा है, वहां से जो लास्ट सेंटेंस है, बट द रिसर्चर्स से देयर सैम्पलिंग एंड सब्सिक्वेंट डीएनए एनालिसिस एलिमिनेट दिस पॉसिबिलिटी ऑल्सो। तो ये भी पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं हो सकती, राइट। तो दो क्लेम्स किए, दोनों को अ, गलत ठहराया है। Now we will just have a look at this creature. So you can see this white, ये जो white lip जो बोल रहे हैं, तो ये white lip क्या है? ये white lip ये है, ये जो है इसे white lip कहा है। और आप देख सकते हो कि इस इस जीव की हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं। तो ये प्यारा सा जो क्रीचर है वो इस फूल इस लीफ पे आप देख सकते हो। एंड प्रोबेबली दिस creature is trying to eat something or trying to find food। तो ऐसा सा कुछ ये जीव है। और ये सेशन स्टार्ट करने से पहले एक 5 मिनट पहले आई थॉट दैट इट विल बी काइंड ऑफ इंटरेस्टिंग कि स्टूडेंट सिर्फ पढ़े नहीं बल्कि देखे भी हम लोग। क्या एक पिक्चर अगर ऐड कर देते हैं तो सेशन में थोड़ी जान आती है। तो इसीलिए आई हैव एडेड दिस पिक्चर ऑल्सो, right? So now we will move ahead. So this is the creature that we are talking about, and it is found in only two spaces, two places, according to author, which is Pyrenees Mountain, which lies between France and Spain on the border. And then let's look at the Pyrenees Mountain as well. So this is the Pyrenees Mountain, right? So ये वो mountain है. Let me wipe this out. It will Yeah. So this is the Pyrenees mountain you can see on your screen. So ऐसा कुछ है बहुत सुंदर सा प्यारा सा। तो अभी हम लोग इसके आगे की चीजें हम लोग पढ़ेंगे, राइट। उसके पहले हम लोग ये मिटा देते हैं जो स्क्रीन पे है। और आप लोग थोड़ा सा एक क्या कहते हैं जो पहले दो पैराग्राफ में मैंने एक्सप्लेन किया उसको थोड़ा सा आप अपने जहन में याद कर सकते हो, राइट। फिर अभी हम लोग कंटिन्यू करेंगे इसके बाद वाला पैसेज। If the snails naturally colonized Ireland, you would expect to find some of the same genetic type in other areas of Europe, especially Britain. We just don't find them. Davidson, the lead author, said in a press statement. So, if uh, if the snails might if the snails would have colonized naturally in Ireland, I mean naturally उनका बर्थ ही आयरलैंड में हुआ है। और बाकी सब उनके जो डेवलपमेंटल फेजेस है दैट इज आल्सो हैपनिंग इन आयरलैंड। देन then the researchers would have expected to find some of the same genetic type in other areas of यूरोप, है ना। इन्होंने 36 डिफरेंट जगह से स्पेसिमेन कलेक्ट किए, 400 से ऊपर। तो उनको कहीं और भी ये प्रजाति मिलनी चाहिए थी, बट इट डिडंट हैपन। दिस इज व्हाट डेविडसन हैज सेड, वी जस्ट डोंट फाइंड देम। Davidson, the lead author, said in the press statement. Moreover, if they had gradually spread across the continent, there would be some genetic variation within the white-lipped type, because evolution would introduce variety over the thousands of years it would have taken them to spread from Pyrenees to Ireland, right? तो अगर ये इवोल्यूशन वाली बात होती, अगर ये इवोल्यूशन वाली बात होती तो उन्हें हजारों साल लग जाते, right? तो वो अगर ग्रेजुअली स्प्रेड हुए होते ओवर द कॉन्टिनेंट, तो दे वुड हैव टेकन थाउजेंड्स ऑफ ईयर टू डू सच। एंड देयर देयर some genetic variation must have been there within the white lip type। मतलब ग्रूव स्नेल्स तो है, बट जो व्हाइट लिप वाला टाइप है उसमें भी देयर माइट हैव बीन सेवरल वैरायटीज अक्रॉस द कॉन्टिनेंट, है ना। कि जैसे हमने एक फिश वाला पैसेज किया था पहले, राइट, मैक्सिकन फिश का। तो उसमें एक जैसे एक सिमिलर प्रजाति है तो उसमें कुछ तो बदलाव हुआ होता अलग अलग जगह पे, but they didn't find that also, right? Because evolution would introduce variety over the thousands of years. It would have taken them to spread from Pyrenees to Ireland. उनको हजारों साल लग जाते Pyrenees से Ireland में. The variation doesn't exist. मतलब there is no variation. They are genetically identical. The snails which were found, white-lipped snails which were found in Ireland and Pyrenees are genetically identical. It means there is a link between them. And this particular passage, author is trying to establish that uh, there is no evidence. There is no evidence that in Ireland these snails have came naturally. Naturally, they might not have came and evolved, right? Because if that would have been the case, then there the genes genes of such species would have some variation. Definitely कुछ तो variation होना चाहिए था, but it is not there, right? They are genetically identical. This means that rather than organism gradually expanding its range, large population instead were somehow moved en masse to the other location within the space of few dozen few dozen generations, ensuring a lack of genetic variety. So it means that naturally uh, it is impossible. Like there is no evidence that in Ireland these snails would have came naturally and evolved there and colonized there. There is no evidence at all because they are genetically similar to the ones which are there in Pyrenees. So this means what? This means that the organism this means that rather than the organism gradually expanding its range, large population instead were somehow moved en masse to other locations within the space of a few dozen generations, ensuring lack of genetic variety. तो कुछ डजन जनरेशन में इसमें कोई genetic variety is not there. They are genetically identical. So it is not a natural possibility. So they have moved from one place to another. जैसे एक जगह से दूसरी जगह ट्रेवल कर जाते हैं, माइग्रेट हो जाते हैं, या कुछ तो रीजन हो जाता है कि सेम genetically similar species travels from one place to another place or shifts from one place to another place. So this is what this passage is trying to establish. There is a very clear pattern which is difficult to explain except by involving humans. Davidson said humans, after all, colonized Ireland roughly 9,000 years ago, and the oldest fossil evidence of grove snails in Ireland dates to roughly the same era. Now, the human intervention, like, could it be possible that humans have done this? Because Ireland, uh, Ireland was roughly colonized 9,000 years ago, right? And additionally, there is archaeological evidence of early sea trade between the ancient people of Spain and Ireland via the Atlantic, and even the evidence that humans routinely ate these type of snails before the advent of agriculture, as their bone shells have been have been found in Stone Age trash heaps. So ये जो white lip snail है, it is very much possible that humans in Ireland, or humans those who are moving from Pyrenees to Ireland, were eating these snails, and they might have taken these snails from Pyrenees to Ireland, right? So initially these snails were there in Pyrenees only, and these people, seafarers, they took these snails on their boats to island. This is a possibility, and the evidence for this is burnt shells. उनकी जो जब स्नेल को बर्न किया होगा तो उसके जो शेल्स हैं वो ट्रैश का जो ढेर होता है, कचरे का ढेर, उसमें पाई गई ये शेल्स। तो दिस इज व्हाई इट कैन बी कंक्लूडेड कि एग्रीकल्चर से पहले एक अटलांटिक में एक ट्रेड होता होगा, एक ट्रैवल करते होंगे पिरेनीज से आयरलैंड ये सी फेरर्स, और वो अपने साथ खाने के लिए ये जो स्नेल्स है इनको ले जाते होंगे पिरेनीज से आयरलैंड। तो ये भी एक अनुमान है। और इस अनुमान को सपोर्ट करने के लिए एविडेंस ये है कि उनकी शेल्स पाई गई एक स्टोन एज ट्रैश हीप में, कचरे के ढेर में उनकी शेल्स पाई। सो दिस इज द पैसेज। Let's see if there is more to it. Yeah, there is more. The simplest explanation then, boats these snails may have inadvertently traveled on the floor of small coast-hugging skiffs these early humans used for travel, or they may have been intentionally carried to Ireland by seafarers as a food source. So whatever was said in last passage, this is just an extension to it. So whenever you are reading a passage, try to establish a pattern. If you can figure out a pattern that in initial passage the author is introducing certain thing, or complaining about something, or maybe asking questions about some particular topic, and then giving evidences, examples, or crossing what is said in the last passage. What is the tone of author? Is it convincing? Is it complaining? Or maybe is it more diplomatic, like taking no sides sort of passage is there? So you have to identify that as well, right? So whatever was said in last passage is for an example. Whatever was said in last passage, this is just an extension to that, right? The simplest explanation. So this author is trying to find an explanation why these particular species, which is genetically identical, is found only in Pyrenees in Ireland. And then he made several claims or speculations which were there. He introduced us to, and then he probably, he denied all those claims by giving evidences. So this is what this entire passage is about. And lastly, the claim that he is making is humans who were traveling from Pyrenees to Ireland have uh, taken these snails on their boats, and they used to eat these snails. Right? This is how the snails have traveled from one place to another. Right? So you can see this is Island, Pyrenees mountain, and this is Ireland. So this would have been the route, right? So this also I have picked, and I thought that it would be interesting. We are not just reading, but when we add a picture or something like a video, uh, then uh, it makes it makes more sense, right? So it is more appealing, and we sort of get sense of things what we are doing. So this is why I have added a picture. So you can see this is France and this is Spain, and this is the border. This is Pyrenees mountain, and from here the seafarers have taken these snails to Ireland. And why they were taking these snails to Ireland? Because they ate these snails in Ireland. Right? Now we will just continue. The highways of the past were rivers and the ocean. As the river that flanks the Pyrenees was an ancient trade route to the Atlantic, what we are actually seeing might be the long-lasting legacy of snails that hitched a ride as humans traveled from south of France to Ireland 8,000 years ago, Davidson said. So, Davidson thus concludes that rivers and oceans were the highways during old times, right? And he's talking about 8,000 years ago when humans traveled from south of France to Ireland. And this is how Davidson explains uh, this transport of snails, we can say, right? So snails were transported from Pyrenees to Ireland. They were genetically similar, and thus the explanation, the final explanation is human intervention is the uh, reason which can be to related with this travel, right, or transport of slaves. So I guess the passage is moreover clear to everybody, right? And I hope that you are following my suggestions to just create patterns. And if you create patterns, it will help you in exam, right? Because there will be 40 minutes. 40 मिनट होते हैं, तो 40 मिनट में हो सकता है आप एक पैसेज कर लो तो चार क्वेश्चन, हर एक क्वेश्चन का होता है 4 मार्क, तो आपके 16 बन गए। अगर आप दो करते हो तो इट विल बी 32। अगर आपको टाइम मिले और तीसरे में से एक दो कर देते हो तो इट विल बी, तो एक एक सवाल के 3 मार्क्स होते हैं, आई एम सॉरी, एक सवाल के 3 मार्क्स होते हैं। तो अगर आप एक पैसेज करते हो तो आपको चार क्वेश्चन के आपको 4 3 12 यानी 12 मिल जाएंगे। और एक और कर लेते हो, दो पैसेज करते हो तो 24। इस तरह से अगर तीसरा पैसेज करने के लिए टाइम मिलता है तो यू कैन स्कोर मोर देन 25। तो 40 मिनट में दो पैसेज यानी 20 मिनट में एक पैसेज करना है, राइट। और अगर 15 मिनट में आप कर सकते हो एक पैसेज, तो ये स्पीड आपको प्रैक्टिस से आएगा। एंड दिस इज व्हाट वी आर डूइंग राइट नाउ, राइट। So try to solve at least, try to read at least one or two or maybe three passages in a day whenever you get time, and try to answer the question. So this is a strategy that you can follow. And when you are answering questions, try to analyze the question patterns also. For example, this one. All of the following evidence supports the passage's explanation of sea travel trade except. So this is except टाइप वाला क्वेश्चन, जिसमें सारे ही जो ऑप्शंस है सारे ही जो ऑप्शंस है तो सारे ही जो ऑप्शंस है वो एविडेंसेस है, राइट। एंड आउट ऑफ दीज ऑप्शंस वन ऑप्शन विल बी एक्सेप्शन, it will not support the passage's explanation of sea travel trade. एक one option will be there which will not support. So this type of questions you should understand, and they will mention this in caps, except या not या best explains, ऐसे करके क्वेश्चन जाते हैं। तो you try to capture that also whenever you are practicing. So considering this question, now we will read uh, all the options. The coincidental existence of similar traits in white-lipped grove snails of Ireland and the Pyrenees because of convergent evolution. No, no, right? Because this convergent evolution, author has already ruled out that convergent, if uh, it would have been through convergent evolution, then their traits would have been same, but they can't be genetically similar, genetically identical. Since they were genetically identical, convergent evolution was ruled out by the author in this passage. So we can conclude this is the statement which is an exception. It is not a supporting evidence to the claim, right? So thus this is your answer. Right? We will read other options also. The oldest fossil evidence of white-lipped grove snails in Ireland dates back to roughly 9,000 years ago, the time when humans colonized Ireland. Yeah, this evidence is there in the passage, right? And it is not contradicting with what author is trying to convey throughout the passage, right? So he talks about fossil evidences, he talks about colonized Ireland 9,000 years ago. Right? And the third option is absence of genetic variation within the white-lipped grove snails of Ireland and the Pyrenees, whose genes were sampled. So absence of variation, definitely this is supporting. They were genetically identical, right? Absence of genetic variation, uh, Ireland key or Pyrenees key. So definitely this is not an exception. This is supporting passages explanation of sea travel trade of news. Right? So two and three are definitely supporting. One is not supporting, and one is the answer. But still, we will read the fourth one as well. And when you are practicing, I would suggest that you read all the options, right? To practice करते समय, it is okay. Whenever you are giving mocks, there you try to accelerate and solve more questions or uh, try to score more by eliminating these habits. If you found an answer without going into all the passages, just mark it. Archaeological evidence of early sea trade between ancient people of Spain and Ireland via Atlantic Ocean. So archaeological evidence also they found, right? Burned shells of snails in trash bags. So that this was also there. So this is also supporting. So only first option is there, which is not supporting. All of the following, I'm raising this again. All of the following evidence support the passage's explanation of sea travel trade, except. So this is the exception. Right? The passage outlines several hypotheses and evidence related to white-lipped grove snails to arrive at the most convincing explanation for. So where the author is trying to arrive at, like what the author is trying to figure out throughout the passage. I think we have discussed this already when I was summarizing the passage, and most of you would probably be able to answer this. Yes, I can see. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Okay, so we'll read first one. While the white-lipped variety of groove snails were wiped out everywhere except in Ireland and Pyrenees. No, this is not the one, right? How the white-lipped variety grove snails independently evolved in Ireland and the Pyrenees. So they have not evolved independently. They have been transported by the human. So this is not the explanation that the author is trying to reach to. Right? First one is also not there because uh, he ruled out that possibility, right? So that these snails were wiped out from everywhere because then they would have found snail uh, some variation in white-lipped snails, and they would have found such snails in Britain or other parts of Europe also because they have collected 423 specimens from 36 different sites, which was not the case. So first one, no. Second one, no. Third one, why the white-lipped variety of grove snails are found only in Ireland and Pyrenees? This is our answer, right? So third one is the correct answer. So he is trying to reach at the explanation. If you would see throughout the passage, he made several claims. Initially, he introduced that genetically identical white-lipped snails are found only in Ireland and Pyrenees Mountains. So he's trying to reach at the conclusion why this this happened. why this happened, that a particular variety of groove snail is found only in these two places and not on the entire, no, it is not found anywhere in the European continent. How the white-lipped variety of grove snails independently evolved in Ireland, independently to Hawaii, right? They have traveled. So fourth is also not the one. So third is your correct answer. Right? Now these options might be A, B, C, D in your paper. So I have captured them as one, two, three, four. Okay, so don't get confused. Which one of the following makes the author eliminate convergent evolution as a probable explanation for why white-lipped grove snails are found in Ireland and the Pyrenees, right? So आप लोग आपका आंसर टाइप करो व्हाट्सएप में, क्या आंसर हो सकता है? I'm reading it again for you. Which one of the following makes the author to eliminate convergent evolution? Just eliminate the convergent evolution. So among the following options, which is the one that makes author to eliminate convergent evolution as the probable explanation for why white-lipped grove snails are found only in Ireland and Pyrenees. Right? So read the option. The absence of generic variation between white-lipped grove snails of Ireland and the Pyrenees. Absence of genetic variation between white-lipped grove snails in Ireland, grove snails of Ireland and Pyrenees. Yeah, there is no genetic variation. Right? There is no genetic variation. If it would have been convergent evolution, and this species would have grown independently in two different places, then there might have been some variation in the species, but that is not the case. This species are genetically identical, so it can be concluded that there is a lineage that snails from Pyrenees have traveled to Ireland, right? So the first option says that there is absence of variation, and this is probably the correct answer, right? The second one says absence of genetic similarities. So genetic similarities were there. So when you say absence of genetic similarities between the two populations, it is not right. Right? The coincidental evolution of similar traits in grove snails of Ireland and the Pyrenees. No, it was not coincidental evolution as such. The snails were transported by the humans for food, for eating. The distinct lineage of white-lipped grove snails found specifically in Ireland and the Pyrenees. Right? Now this is very close. The distinct lineage, you might get confused between option 1 and 4, right? But which one of the following makes the author to eliminate? By right, how researchers eliminated the claim of convergent evolution, and that elimination was this. When you will read the second passage, probably there is they introduce convergent. Author introduces convergent evolution, and then he says that it is not true because these snails were genetically similar. They were not. Uh, there was not any variation which was found. So we can conclude that first one is the correct one. And though this is very close, this is not the direct, uh, there is no direct link between uh, lineage and, why they are found in specifically in Ireland and Pyrenees. So there is no direct link between it that eliminates the convergent evolution. All right. This is the last one in paragraph 4. The evidence that humans routinely ate this type of snail before the advent of agriculture can be used to conclude that white-lipped grove snail may have inadvertently traveled from Pyrenees to Ireland on the floor of small coast-hugging skiffs that early seafarers used for travel. It was mentioned in the passage. Okay, the seafarers who traveled from Pyrenees to Ireland might have carried white-lipped grove snails with them as edibles. So this is the evidence. Right? In paragraph 4, the evidence that the evidence that they have given, humans routinely ate this type of snails before the advent of agriculture, can be used to conclude. What can be concluded? This can be concluded that seafarers who traveled from Pyrenees to Ireland might have carried white-lipped grove snails from with them as edible. है ना, यही हमने जो लास्ट जो पैसेज था उसमें यही कंक्लूड किया डेविडसन ने कि ये जो स्नेल्स है पिरेनीज की, इनको ये सी फेरर्स अपने साथ ले जाते थे। और क्यों ले जाते थे? क्योंकि दो snails were edible and those were the source of food. Rivers and oceans in the Stone Age facilitated trade in white-lipped grove snails. Yes, this is true, but this is not the conclusion, right? 9,000 years ago, during Stone Age, humans traveled from South France to Ireland via Atlantic oceans. Yeah, they definitely they traveled from uh, south of France of Ireland. They have traveled from south of France to Ireland via Atlantic Ocean. We have seen the picture also how this transport happened. But when we have to conclude, right? When we have to conclude that humans routinely ate that this was food source of these people, then the second option is most relevant. So thus second option is the correct one. So that's it. I'll take your leave, and I hope you like this.